So here we have 60s and 70s, more and more community gardens are created, to a point where in around the 80s you have about over 700 community gardens citywide. Lower East Side, Harlem, East Harlem, West Harlem, South Bronx, East New York, Brownsville, all over the areas again where majority people of color and working class poorer communities live. So here's a scenario, and it's getting larger and larger. So folks are like, whoa. And I don't know if they even thought of the laws that says after a certain amount of time, you're allowed to own a site. And it's debatable, but there's a point where they kind of said, we have to control this phenomena. And what they did, they actually liked it in some ways, because here it is, out of the 40,000 lot, close to 1,000 of them, people are taking care of it. They can see that it's not being trashed, garbaged. There's a sense of community, and people are saving them money in cleaning up the place, maintaining it, watching over it, et cetera, et cetera. So they're like, control, and actually this is great. Since we can't afford doing it, let's emphasize that. So they started a program called Green Thumb, and it was federally funded, that allowed monies to come in and put the fences, give people tools, seeds, some teaching, and then allowed like almost saying, if you, and they even put it in the newspapers, if you want to take care of a vacant lot, come to Green Thumb and we will help you start the community garden. And it wasn't even community. Even if one person by himself or herself wanted to take care of this and was bossy and told everybody to go away, they were fine with that, as long as you got. Now, one thing they did do for the other folks who had been doing this by themselves for many, many years, they came and said, very nice, good job, but you got to sign this letter that is a lease. And in the lease, and they kind of said, well, now we give you have permission, real permission from the city to do this. However, in the lease, they did put, like, if there was any time that we needed to kick you out, we could kick you out in 30 days or 90 days, or depending. Some leases were for a year or 2 years. This, of course, made the gardeners who had the right as squatters to have, I can't remember the name of it, what's the name of the law that says if you're there for a certain amount of years, adverse possession. So of course that negated the adverse possession rights that they had by signing on the paper saying, it is the city's, it's not ours, and we are here just leasing it. So they basically got the papers, they got them to sign it, and by signing it, they sort of give away their rights as adverse possession. And so here it is. There's a kind of a balance of 700, 800 gardens existing with now a city agency that gives them letters of permission and supports their cause, and actually adding more community gardens citywide by their support. And the people in Green Thumb are not at all thinking, oh, we're doing this to destroy the gardens or kick them out. They're like, well, there's this many here, once in a while, there's a housing need, and there's plenty of land. There's like still 40,000 vacant lands that somebody can move across the street, etc. And so the policy changed as Koch administration and other administrations started seeding artists and people into the communities, kind of like to improve it, but also to kind of like bring the value of, like, Soho was one of the very focused areas for artists and people where it sold the buildings to make it nice and very fancy. And then of course everyone's like, ooh, what a cool place, I'm going to go live there too. And again, like with the squatters, I don't think anybody was like, oh, I'm going to make this place nice so I'll be kicked out of my place. But it kind of allowed a certain, like, oh, this is kind of a chic place, or this is this is alternative kind of living, etc. And started changing that. And the thing that I loved about gardens was one thing, that it did bring all the groups together to kind of work together, which the housing didn't. Somehow housing was like, there's a house, there's a group of people, they're defending themselves, and we're separate. It's like apartments, everything is apart. Community gardens, on the other hand, the name is a community garden, so all the people come to be working as a team. So it's a really wonderful way of like bringing people from all different backgrounds to a land that you work and you need to work as a team. And so people come in, they hang out, they have barbecues, they have birthdays. So there's a lot of like powerful memories of their children growing up, etc., in those spaces. And it does really, really, really strongly bring people together. Not to say there's many gardens that are very exclusive just for a family or one guy who's just like, I'm done with New York City, I just want to be by myself in green space. And at that point there were so many vacant lots and nobody was like, oh well, you got to open it up. Like, well, go over there, start your own garden. It was there. So there was plenty of that energy. And through the Giuliani terms, when they specifically went after trying to sell all the vacant lots, nobody wanted all of them. So they're like giving it away. They're on auction, they're this, and there's investors saying, oh, well, maybe the prices will go up. I'll just, but he very specifically went after the gardens. Right in the beginning, he was like, and we're like 700, why 40,000? What's going on? And part of a possible policy might be that you go after the community who really takes care of the community, knows what their rights are, knows how to defend itself and watch out for it. And by destroying that and saying, we can do whatever we want, then you can put any kind of condos and you break the spirit of the community, the roots of the community. And once you've gotten that, then you can pretty much say, here is my developer, here's this, well, I can do whatever I want. And in a way, it is to the power of the people that after 10 years, we were able to save 600 of those community gardens. They're permanent, they're here. People got arrested, they did civil disobedience, they came out to huge rallies, they wrote huge amount of letters to their politicians. And at this point, a lot of like politicians have come up through that, are now very supportive of the community gardens. They're very supportive of green space. Everyone's like, a million trees there, a million this, a million green. Let's plant bulbs and tulips. And even though I think government versus people value the community gardens much higher because they see who's in there, while the government kind of sees it a little bit of pain in the butt, but see the parks as much more of like, it's controlled. It's, you know, we as agents are taking care of it and we know what's best for the community. While here you have the community gardens, people themselves are the agent of change. It's not always perfect and to the rule. There's fighting and angry and emotions and life, which is what life is, versus, you know, paid staff that come and, you know, maybe have a couple of words with you. Oh, you want trees? Okay, great. And oh, your Puerto Rican neighborhood, you want, you know, some benches that are for playing dominoes? Okay, and they get paid like $100,000 to plan that kind of conversation. While people for free, for nothing, they do it themselves, take care of it, they build a community, they build strength. Yeah, they get angry and upset and all sorts of things, but it's like part of being in the garden. And the garden and the earth really heals. It really does heal people and allows them to see their like more connected, rooted parts to each other. So that's something that comes really powerfully in that way. And I've seen that happen with very diverse groups, and it's just really magical.